The champagne glass exploded 3 feet from Amara Kora's shoes. Then came the laughter. Not nervous laughter. Not the kind people used when something embarrassing happened and everybody wanted to pretend it hadn't. This was cruel. Amara's fingers remained curled around the empty tray while champagne crept between shards of crystal at her feet. Her pulse slammed against her throat. She had been working this event for 6 hours. 6 hours of smiling. 6 hours of pretending she couldn't hear the comments. And now, the entire ballroom was looking at her. One of the models looked at Amara from head to toe. Then her mouth curved. Why would they let someone that fat work a fashion event? The words landed harder than the glass. A few people looked uncomfortable. Nobody challenged her. Amara felt heat crawl into her cheeks, but she refused to give them tears. Not here. Not for them. She bent down. One piece of glass. Then another. Her fingers trembled once. She clenched them until they stopped. She needed this shift. She needed the money. She could survive one more humiliation. At least, that was what she told herself. Across the ballroom, Kang Taejun looked up. That alone was enough to make Lee Dae-hyun notice. For nearly 2 hours, Taejun had barely reacted to anything. 7 models had walked before him. 7. Every one beautiful enough to make half the room stare. Taejun had dismissed them with variations of the same cold answer. No. Next. Not her. But now he wasn't looking at the stage. He was looking beyond it, at the waitress on her knees gathering broken glass while people laughed, and something in Taejun's face went completely still. Yoon So-yeon followed his eyes. Her expression changed immediately. Of all the women in that room, Taejun was staring at her. A waitress. So-yeon's fingers tightened around the tablet in her hand. Taejun. Nothing. She tried again. The next model is ready. His eyes never moved. Then Amara reached toward another shard. Taejun saw blood. A thin red line opened across her finger. His chair scraped backward. Half the ballroom turned at the sound. Dae-hyun's eyebrows rose. Because Kang Taejun was standing, he crossed the ballroom without hurrying. That somehow made it worse. Conversations died as he passed. People moved aside before he reached them. Amara didn't notice. She was staring at the cut on her finger and wondering whether bleeding on imported marble would somehow be deducted from her pay. Then a pair of polished black shoes stopped beside the broken glass. Her stomach tightened. Wonderful. Management. She prepared the apology before looking up. I'm sorry. I'll clean everything. The man didn't answer. Instead, Kang Taejun crouched beside her, and the ballroom almost forgot how to breathe. Amara stared at him. You don't have to do that. Taejun picked up another piece. I know. That answer irritated her immediately. Not because it was rude, because it wasn't. Around them stood executives who would probably pay more for dinner than Amara earned in a month. Yet the only person helping her was the man everyone else seemed terrified to approach. She reached for another shard. His hand closed around her wrist. Don't. Her pulse jumped. Taejun looked at the blood on her finger. Then his eyes lifted to hers. You're hurt. Amara pulled her hand free. I've survived worse than a glass. For the first time that evening, Taejun looked surprised, then amused. Barely. Just the smallest movement at one corner of his mouth. Amara noticed it. So did So-yeon, and So-yeon looked as though someone had slapped her, because 7 models had spent 2 hours trying to make Kang Taejun smile. The waitress had managed it, while bleeding on the floor and arguing with him. Then the model who had insulted Amara laughed again. Seriously? Amara's shoulders stiffened. Taejun's smile disappeared. Taejun stood. Say it again. The model blinked. Her confidence evaporated so quickly it would have been funny under different circumstances. I was joking. I didn't ask what you were doing. His voice stayed quiet. I asked you to repeat it. Nobody laughed now. Amara felt her heart pounding at what had to be at least 120 beats per minute. The model looked toward So-yeon for rescue. So-yeon didn't move. Taejun waited. Finally, the woman whispered, "I said she was too fat for a fashion event." Taejun looked at her for 3 long seconds. "You're dismissed." The model swallowed. "From tonight?" "From the campaign." Her face drained. Soyeon stepped forward immediately. "Taejun, she's one of our strongest candidates." "Not anymore." He didn't raise his voice. That made everybody hear him. Then his attention moved back toward Amara. She was still standing beside the broken glass, wounded finger curled into her palm, staring at him as if she had just discovered the evening contained a problem much bigger than humiliation. Then Taejun turned toward the stage. "Cancel the rest." Soyeon's eyes widened. "We have 12 women waiting. Send them home." A ripple moved through the ballroom. 2 hours of planning disappeared in 5 words. Soyeon lowered her voice. "Then who exactly are you choosing?" Taejun looked toward Amara. Amara actually checked behind herself. There was nobody there. Her stomach dropped. No, absolutely not. She had come here to carry champagne, not to become whatever this terrifying man suddenly thought she was. "You!" Amara stared at him. "Me what?" "I want you for the campaign." For 1 second nothing happened. Then Amara laughed. Not flirtatiously, not politely. She genuinely laughed in Kang Taejun's face. A tiny muscle moved in Daehyun's cheek. He looked suspiciously close to enjoying himself. Amara shook her head. "You fired actual models, and now you want the waitress because somebody insulted her." Taejun's gaze hardened slightly. "I don't make decisions out of pity." "Good." She picked up her tray. "Because I don't accept jobs out of it either." And she walked away. Soyeon watched Amara leave. Then she looked at Taejun. "You cannot be serious." Taejun adjusted one cuff. "I rarely waste time being anything else." "She's not trained." "Train her. She doesn't have the body for couture." That made Taejun's eyes lift. Soyeon recognized the warning too late. "The clothes will be made for her body." His voice stayed quiet. "Her body will not be remade for the clothes." For the first time that night, Soyeon understood this was not amusement. Something about Amara had reached him, and she hated it immediately. Amara reached the service corridor before her breathing finally broke rhythm. Her eyes burned. She refused to cry. The insult hurt. Taejun's offer somehow hurt too, because she knew what people would say, that he chose her because she was unusual, because he wanted attention, because turning a plus-size waitress into a campaign face would make him look generous. Amara pressed the napkin harder against her finger. She had spent too many years refusing to become somebody else's inspirational before and after picture. She was not starting tonight. "Ms. Cora." Amara closed her eyes. "Please tell your boss no." Daehyun held out a folder. "He predicted you'd say that." "Good. Saves us time." He also increased the offer. Amara glanced down. Then she saw the number. Her lungs forgot their job. Daehyun almost smiled. "Still no?" Amara pushed the folder back. "Tell him adding zeros doesn't make me easier to buy." Daehyun studied her for a moment. Then the smile finally escaped. "I think that's the first useful thing anyone has told him in years." The flowers arrived the next morning. 3 dozen burgundy roses. Amara stared at them. Zuri stared harder. "Who did you accidentally seduce?" "I didn't." "Those flowers disagree." Amara found the card. No romantic message. Just one sentence. "Consider the campaign." She groaned. Zuri read the card over her shoulder. "Rich? Apparently. Handsome? Unfortunately. Dangerous?" Amara remembered the ballroom going quiet when Taejun stood. "Very." Zuri looked back at the flowers. "Well, at least your problems have excellent taste." Amara sent every rose back. The shoes arrived that afternoon. Amara opened the box, looked at the size, then laughed so hard she had to sit down. Zuri leaned over. "He sent you shoes? In the wrong size. That is almost impressive." Amara wrote a note. "Money apparently cannot purchase observational skills." She put it inside the box and sent everything back. 3 hours later, Taejun read the message in his office. Daehyun watched his boss stare at it. Then Taejun laughed. Not smiled. Laughed. Daehyun immediately decided Amaracora was becoming a national security concern. Taejun stopped sending gifts. For 4 days, nothing arrived. Amara told herself she was relieved. On the 5th day, Daehyun called. No flowers, no jewelry, no absurd numbers. Just one request. Come to the atelier. Look at the campaign. Ask every question you want. Walk away afterward if the answers aren't good enough. That changed something. Not because Taejun had become less powerful, because for the first time, he had listened. Amara agreed to one meeting, and warned herself repeatedly that one meeting was not the beginning of anything. I won't lose weight. Taejun sat opposite her. I didn't ask you to. I won't wear anything designed to make my stomach disappear. Fine. No corseting me until I can't breathe. Fine. No before and after nonsense. Agreed. Amara narrowed her eyes. You keep agreeing too quickly. Taejun leaned back. Would you prefer resistance? She almost smiled. No. Then we're making progress. Amara looked around the atelier. For the first time, the clothes weren't being presented as tools to fix her. They were waiting to be built around her. That frightened her more than she expected. The first gown was sapphire. Amara stepped onto the platform and looked at herself. Her immediate instinct was to search for flaws. Stomach, arms, hips, all the places other people had taught her to inspect before she allowed herself to feel beautiful. The seamstress adjusted one shoulder. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was compressed. The fabric followed her. Amara swallowed. Then she saw Taejun in the mirror. He had stopped speaking. Completely. She turned. Kang Taejun, are you malfunctioning? Daehyun looked down before anyone could see him smiling. Taejun recovered slowly. I was thinking. Amara folded her arms. That looked painful. Daehyun coughed. Taejun ignored him. The corner of Amara's mouth lifted. Something unfamiliar loosened in Taejun's chest. He had spent years around people who watched every word around him. Amara didn't. She teased him. Refused him. Returned expensive gifts with sarcasm. And somehow every refusal made him more curious. The campaign had started as a business decision. Taejun was beginning to understand that his interest in Amara had stopped being business almost immediately. Soyeon saw the problem before either of them admitted it. Taejun was relaxed. Not much. Nobody else would have noticed. Soyeon had known him for 12 years. She noticed. He answered Amara's jokes, waited when she spoke, changed plans when she looked uncomfortable. Soyeon had spent years learning how to function inside Taejun's world. Amara had walked into it and started rearranging furniture. That night, Soyeon opened a private file. Amaracora. The investigation had started weeks before the ballroom, and suddenly jealousy found something far more useful than anger. Amara heard footsteps, stopped. They stopped too. Her skin tightened. She turned. Nothing. Just concrete columns and parked cars. She walked faster. The footsteps returned. Her heart kicked brutally against her ribs. Then headlights flared behind her. Amara reached the elevator and stabbed the button. Once, twice, 3 times. The doors opened. She stepped inside. Just before they closed, she saw a man-shaped shadow emerge from behind a column. The doors sealed. Amara stood alone in the elevator, trying to convince herself she had imagined everything. She had not. Daehyun showed Taejun the footage before midnight. The man following Amara had avoided every camera except one. 1 second of his face. That was enough. Taejun knew the organization attached to him. His jaw locked. Increase her security. She'll notice. Then be better. Daehyun hesitated. Are you going to tell her why? Taejun stared at Amara's frozen image on the monitor. That question had become dangerous. Because Taejun knew something Amara didn't. His people had been looking for her before the night they met, and every day he delayed telling her made the truth worse. You had people following me, protecting you. Without asking, Taejun stood. Someone followed you first. Amara's anger stalled. What? He told her about the garage. Not everything. Enough. Her mouth went dry. Who? I don't know yet. That was technically true. What aren't you telling me? Taejun looked at her. Too long. Amara felt it. There. The hidden door behind his eyes. She stepped closer. I can handle danger. I cannot handle being lied to. Taejun's expression barely changed, but the warning lodged inside him anyway. I won't lie to you. The words came out too smoothly. Taejun hated himself for them. Amara watched him. Good. She believed him enough to leave. The office door closed. Daehyun stepped from the adjoining room. That was a lie. Taejun's gaze stayed on the door. I know. You should tell her. I will. When? Taejun had no answer, because telling Amara the truth might make her leave. And Kang Taejun, who had built his life around controlling risk, had discovered the one possibility he was suddenly terrified to calculate. Losing her. The first campaign photographs appeared online 2 weeks later. Amara almost threw her phone across the room, not because they were bad, because they were beautiful, not flattering in the dishonest sense, not edited into another body. Her stomach was still hers. Her thighs were still hers. Her curves were visible. She looked powerful. Zuri cried first. Amara called her ridiculous. Then she cried too. By morning, the campaign was everywhere, and buried beneath thousands of messages from women saying they finally felt seen was something darker. Someone had posted Amara's home address. At 1:17 in the morning, Amara saw the black car outside. Same position, engine running, no headlights. Her skin went cold. She called Taejun before she could talk herself out of it. He answered on the first ring. Lock the door. No greeting. No questions. How did you know? Because Daehyun is already downstairs. Amara's blood pressure probably deserved its own emergency meeting. Within minutes, security surrounded the building. Taejun arrived himself. That was the moment Amara understood his concern had crossed into something neither of them could call professional anymore. Before you find out why Taejun's enemies had started circling Amara, if you're enjoying this story, subscribe to Soulmate Mafia Love Stories. Every complete story here takes real work to bring to life, and subscribing tells us these stories are worth making, because Taejun was about to do something even he didn't understand yet. He was going to reorganize his entire life around a woman who still wasn't sure she trusted him, and the secret he was hiding from her was getting more dangerous by the hour. Amara agreed to stay at Taejun's penthouse for 3 nights. Only 3. She repeated that number so often, it began sounding like a prayer. Taejun gave her the guest wing. No pressure, no assumptions, no dramatic attempt to turn proximity into intimacy. That restraint confused her. Then she discovered he had changed the kitchen staff's menus because she hated overly sweet breakfasts. You told them? You complained twice. I was talking to Zuri. I have ears. Amara stared at him. You're deeply annoying. I've been told, mostly by her. At 2 in the morning, Amara found Taejun awake. Again. You ever sleep? Occasionally. That's not healthy. Neither is breaking into my kitchen at 2. I live here temporarily. You've been here 11 hours. Exactly. Practically family. The joke faded when she saw his face. Taejun looked exhausted. Not physically, something deeper. He admitted sleep had been difficult since his father died. Amara didn't ask how. She only sat beside him. That small mercy disturbed him more than interrogation would have. Paris was supposed to be work. That lie lasted approximately 20 minutes. Taejun had booked the entire couture salon for the campaign. Not because privacy impressed Amara, because he remembered she hated being stared at while eating, changing or being fitted. That detail struck harder than the private jet. She was learning Taejun's most dangerous habit, he noticed. Not only the glamorous things, the tiny discomforts people usually ignored. Then he quietly rearranged his power until those discomforts disappeared. Amara hated how deeply that affected her. The Paris gown was emerald. When Amara stepped onto the platform, the designer asked whether she wanted the waist visually narrowed. No, Taejun answered before she could. Amara turned. He immediately corrected himself. Sorry, your decision. Her irritation softened. No. The designer nodded. Nothing changed. Later, Amara stood before the mirror and realized she wasn't trying to make herself disappear. For the first time in years, beauty did not feel like a negotiation. Taejun watched quietly from across the room. He understood that interrupting this moment would make it smaller, so he didn't. You booked the whole terrace? Yes. Why? You said crowds make it difficult to enjoy food. Amara stopped. She had mentioned that once, weeks ago. Taejun noticed her expression. Was that wrong? No. She looked toward Paris. That's the problem. Something tightened between them. Not danger. Something worse. Tenderness. Amara had expected wealth to be Taejun's seduction. Instead, it was attention. The frightening part was that money could be rejected. Attention like this slipped under defenses. By dessert, she had forgotten to keep hers raised. Taejun walked her toward the terrace door. Amara stopped. He stopped too. Neither spoke. His eyes dropped to her mouth. Her heart began behaving like it had recently acquired legal independence. 130 beats per minute. Possibly 150. Taejun leaned closer. Amara did too. Then his phone rang. She closed her eyes. You have got to be kidding me. Taejun looked genuinely offended by modern telecommunications. Amara started laughing. The moment broke. The desire did not. Back in Seoul, Soyeon found the file Taejun should have destroyed. Amara's name, employment history, old family records. A photograph from years earlier, and one line that mattered, possible connection to missing ledger. Soyeon stared at the dates. The investigation had begun before the ballroom, before Taejun supposedly noticed Amara. Her jealousy cooled into strategy. She didn't need to compete with Amara. She only needed Amara to believe Taejun had manufactured everything. The campaign, the protection, the romance. Soyeon copied the file. Then she called Park Song-ho. Lake Como was worse. Worse because Amara loved it instantly. The water looked painted. The mountains made Seoul feel impossibly far away. Taejun had arranged photographers for the afternoon, then cancelled them when Amara admitted she was exhausted. You cancelled an international shoot because I'm tired. We moved it. That costs money. I have money. She stared at him. That answer is extremely irritating. I've noticed. Amara laughed, and somewhere between Paris and Italy, being with Taejun had stopped feeling like stepping into his world. He was beginning to build space for hers. A diamond bracelet waited beside her dinner plate. Amara stared at it. Taejun, you liked it. I looked at it. Usually how liking begins. She almost smiled. Then her face changed. I can't take this. Why? Because expensive things from you feel dangerous. Taejun understood before she finished. She was afraid gifts would become obligations. He closed the box. No argument. No wounded pride. Then don't. Amara looked at him. That simple answer did more damage to her defenses than the diamonds ever could. He put the box away, and never mentioned it again. Later, Amara found Taejun alone by the lake. You always disappear after people get close. His eyes shifted toward her. Do I? Yes. She leaned against the railing. Why? For a long moment he didn't answer. Then he admitted something nobody else knew. His father had taught him that affection always came with a price. People stayed because they wanted protection, money or power. Amara looked at him. I returned your flowers. I remember. And your shoes. I definitely remember. So maybe update the theory. This time, Taejun smiled without hiding it. Amara stepped closer. Taejun didn't. For once, he let her choose the distance. Her hand touched his chest. His breath changed. Still think everybody wants something? His voice dropped. What do you want? Amara looked at him. Right now. He nodded. She kissed him. Softly. Forjun froze for half a second before answering. No urgency. No claim. Just warmth. When they separated, Amara's forehead rested against his. Neither of them knew that back in Seoul, Soyeon had already prepared the thing that would tear this moment apart. If you're still here with Amara right now, drop one emoji that describes exactly how you're feeling, and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is there. Because this is the moment most people would call the beginning of the happy part. It isn't. Amara has finally allowed herself to believe Taejun sees her. Not a project, not a body to change, not a woman to rescue. And the truth waiting for her in Seoul is about to make every beautiful thing between them look like a lie. Dubai turned Taejun's spoiling into absurdity. A private suite, a chauffeured car, a jewelry salon closed early for them. Amara stared at him after the third surprise. Do you know normal people make dinner reservations? I made reservations. For an entire restaurant. You dislike crowds. She laughed despite herself. The truth was, Taejun's wealth had become less impressive the more she knew him. What mattered was how often he used power to remove discomfort instead of creating dependence. He was learning her boundaries and, more importantly, learning to stop when he reached one. You don't need another necklace. I wasn't buying it for me. No, you haven't seen it. No, it's not even out of the case. Still no. Taejun looked offended. Amara laughed. The jeweler pretended not to listen. Then Taejun surprised her. He nodded. Fine. No bargaining. No attempt to wear her down. On the way out, Amara stopped at a small display. A simple gold pendant. Nothing dramatic. She touched the glass. Taejun saw. He did not buy it. That restraint was the gift she remembered. There was one gift Amara accepted. The midnight blue gown. Not because of the designer. Not because of the price. Because Taejun had remembered everything she said during her first fitting. No hidden panels pretending her stomach wasn't there. No structure designed to shrink her hips. No tricks. The dress honored the body she already had. Amara looked into the mirror. Something inside her cracked. Not pain. Relief. Taejun stood behind her at a respectful distance. Beautiful. Amara met his reflection. For once, I actually believe you. Daehyun called at midnight. The man from the parking garage had resurfaced. This time carrying photographs of Amara. Old photographs. Before the campaign. Before the ballroom. Taejun went cold. Who gave them to him? We're tracing it. Seongho? Possibly. Taejun looked toward the bedroom door. Amara was inside, laughing with Zuri on the phone. For one terrible second, Taejun imagined telling her everything. Then he imagined losing her. Fear won. Find proof first. That decision would cost him more than anything Seongho could steal. Soyeon didn't send the file immediately. She waited until Amara was happiest. That was deliberate. Cruelty worked better when it had distance to drop. The email reached Amara the morning they returned to Seoul. No message. No explanation. Just documents. Her name appeared on the first page. Then dates. Photographs. Employment records. A note from Taejun's intelligence team. Locate Amara Kora. Date opened. 19 days before the ballroom event. Amara stopped breathing. She read the date again. Then again. The room seemed to tilt beneath her. Paris, Como, Dubai. The gown. The kiss. Every memory rearranged itself. Amara's chest tightened until breathing hurt. He knew her name before she introduced herself. His people had searched for her, had watched her, had built a file. and he had looked into her face night after night while saying nothing. Amara wanted the documents to be fake. She wanted one obvious mistake. There wasn't one. At the bottom of the file sat Taejun's authorization code. Her eyes filled. This time, she couldn't order the tears back. "When were you going to tell me?" Taejun saw the pages. His face changed. That was enough. Amara laughed once through tears. "Oh my God. Amara." "No." He stopped. "You knew. I knew my people were looking for someone connected to a ledger. My name was in your file." "Yes." "Before we met." "Yes." Each answer cut cleaner than a lie. Amara's hands shook. "Did you recognize me that night?" "Not immediately." "That's supposed to help." "No." "Was any of it real?" Taejun looked wrecked. "All of it." Amara wiped her cheek angrily. "Then why didn't you tell me?" Taejun opened his mouth. Nothing came. "That hurt more than anything." She nodded slowly. "Because you thought I'd leave." "Yes. And you decided your fear mattered more than my right to know." Taejun's jaw tightened. Not in anger, shame. Amara picked up her bag. He didn't block her. He could have. That was the horror of loving a powerful man. He could control almost everything. But Taejun finally understood that if he stopped her now, whatever existed between them would die permanently. Amara reached the elevator. Behind her, Taejun said her name once. She stopped. For one dangerous second, she wanted to turn around, to let him explain until the truth hurt less. But some wounds needed distance before forgiveness could even become possible. She stepped inside. The doors closed. Taejun stood alone in the penthouse. For a man with properties across continents, armored cars, private aircraft, and enough money to solve problems before most people heard about them, his home had never felt so empty. And he had built that emptiness himself. Daehyun found him an hour later. Taejun hadn't moved. She left? Yes. Daehyun sat opposite him. "You could have told her." "I know." "Why didn't you?" Taejun stared at the floor. For once, the answer wasn't strategy. "I was afraid." Daehyun said nothing. Taejun gave a hollow laugh. "I have men trying to kill me, who frighten me less than one woman walking away. That's because the men trying to kill you don't matter." Taejun finally looked up. The truth hit exactly where Daehyun intended. Amara made it home before she broke. Not graceful tears, not cinematic tears. The ugly kind that made breathing difficult. Zuri sat beside her, without asking questions. When Amara finally explained, anger flashed across Zuri's face. "He lied. By omission. That is the luxury version of lying." Amara laughed through tears, then cried harder. Because loving Taejun had been easier than she expected. Trusting herself afterward was harder. Had she missed warning signs? Had every beautiful moment been part of an investigation? Somewhere beneath the pain, she knew the answer. But heartbreak rarely respected logic. Park Seong-ho had been waiting for this. Taejun distracted. Amara isolated. Soyeon desperate. Years earlier, Song-ho had diverted money through shell companies hidden inside Taejun's logistics empire. One ledger could prove it. Amara's late relative had discovered enough to become dangerous. Before disappearing from the network entirely, they had hidden evidence inside an object Amara inherited. Song-ho couldn't locate it, so he placed Amara near Taejun. He expected Taejun's investigators to lead him to the evidence. He never expected Taejun to fall in love with her. That mistake was now useful. Soyeon thought she and Song-ho were partners. He corrected her. "You were useful." Her face tightened. "I have copies of everything." "So do I." He slid a phone across the desk. Recordings, payments, messages, all preserved because Soyeon had wanted proof of her influence. Now, every piece of evidence pointed back to her. Her vanity had built the cage. "If I fall, you fall." Song-ho smiled. "Only if I stay." For the first time, Soyeon understood she had not been steering revenge. She had simply been another person Song-ho intended to sacrifice. Amara remembered the box at 3 in the morning, an old carved wooden piece she had carried through every apartment. Her relative had given it to her years ago. Keep this safe. She always assumed the box mattered because it belonged to family. Now she noticed the base, too thick. Amara found a tiny release hidden beneath the lining. The panel opened. Inside sat a memory card. Her heart stopped. The entire nightmare suddenly had a shape. She reached for her phone. Then someone knocked on the apartment door. 3 slow knocks. Zuri was asleep. Amara froze. The handle moved. Amara backed away. Her phone was across the room. Stupid. The lock clicked. Someone had a key. She grabbed the memory card and pushed it into her pocket. The door opened. 2 men stepped inside. Amara ran. One caught the back of her sweater. She twisted hard enough to tear fabric. Zuri screamed from the hallway. The apartment exploded into motion. Amara reached the balcony door. No exit. Then the front entrance crashed open again. Daehyun entered with 2 security officers. The men fled through the service stairwell. Taejun arrived 4 minutes later. 4 minutes felt unforgivable. His eyes found Amara, alive, shaking. He crossed half the room before she lifted one hand. Don't. He stopped instantly. That hurt. He deserved it. Are you injured? No. What did they want? Amara looked at him. Then she pulled the memory card from her pocket. Taejun's face changed. I think this is what everyone wants. For the first time since she left him, they were standing inside the same problem. Not lovers. Not enemies. 2 people trapped by the same truth. The memory card contained everything. Accounts, payments, routes, names, Seong-ho's, Soyeon's, government contacts. Companies Taejun had never known were compromised. Amara stared at the screen. My family knew. Someone connected to them found it. And you were looking for me because you thought I had this. Yes. She turned. You should have told me. I know. No defense. No excuse. For once, Taejun let the truth stand without trying to control how she received it. Amara looked away. Forgiveness was not there yet, but something inside her anger changed shape. Daehyun read the authorization twice. If we release this, we lose companies. I know. Investors. I know. People loyal to your father will turn against you. I know. Taejun signed. Amara watched from across the room. He wasn't sacrificing everything for romance. He was doing what he should have done the first time. Choosing truth, even when truth cost him power. That mattered. Daehyun collected the documents. Once I send this, we don't control what happens. Taejun looked at Amara. That is precisely the point. Then he released the evidence. Seong-ho's phone lit up. Account frozen. Then another. And another. His entire network began collapsing in real time. Taejun had done the one thing Song-ho never believed he would do. Expose himself to destroy the corruption. Song-ho slammed both hands onto the desk. There was one move left. Soyeon. Amara. The warehouse. If he could obtain the original memory card and create enough confusion to escape, he might still survive. He called Soyeon. Her answer came quietly. What do you need? She did not yet understand that Song-ho had already decided she was expendable. Soyeon's message arrived from an unknown number. I can prove Taejun didn't arrange the ballroom meeting. Come alone. Amara almost deleted it. Then another message. A photograph. Her late relative, standing beside Seong-ho. Amara's breath caught. She knew going alone was stupid, so she didn't. She forwarded everything to Daehyun. Then she agreed to meet. Not because she trusted Soyeon, because she was tired of being the last person to know what her own life meant. Daehyun began tracing the number immediately. The signal led to a warehouse outside Seoul. The warehouse smelled like metal, rain, and old dust. Amara hated everything about it. Soyeon? Her voice echoed. No answer. Then movement. Soyeon stepped from behind a stack of pallets. She looked different. No cameras. No perfect social smile. Fear had finally reached her. You came. You said you had proof. I do. Soyeon lifted a folder. Then a door slammed somewhere behind them. Soyeon's face changed. Not relief. Terror. Amara understood instantly. Whatever Soyeon had planned, this was no longer under her control. Seong-ho walked into the light. Soyeon whispered, "This wasn't the agreement." "No." He looked at Amara. "Where's the memory card?" "Somewhere you'll never reach." His expression hardened. Soyeon backed away. "You said you only wanted the evidence." Seong-ho laughed softly. "You preserved every message between us." Soyeon's face went white. "Insurance." "Exactly." Amara looked between them. The entire conspiracy was collapsing, because neither conspirator trusted the other. Soyeon's obsession with proving her influence had created evidence Seong-ho could not leave behind. Her own vanity had become the fuse. Daehyun traced Amara's message before she reached the warehouse. Taejun was already moving. He wanted to be angry she had gone. He had lost the right. So he focused on bringing her home. Daehyun entered through the loading side. Taejun took the eastern access. Police were minutes away, because, for once, Taejun had called them before bullets. That was new too. He was learning that solving everything alone wasn't strength. Sometimes strength was handing control to people who could help. Then he heard Seong-ho's voice, and Amara's. Seong-ho raised the gun, not toward Amara, toward Soyeon. Her breath vanished. "You need me." "No. You cannot erase the recordings without me." "I don't need to erase them." He smiled. "I only need everyone to believe you acted alone." The cruelty landed perfectly. Soyeon had spent years treating people as disposable pieces. Now she was one. She looked at Amara. The woman she had humiliated, sabotaged, endangered, and for one unbearable second, Soyeon knew Amara could simply step aside. Nobody would blame her. Amara moved. She grabbed Soyeon and pulled her behind the steel column. The shot cracked through the warehouse. Metal sparked beside them. Soyeon stared at Amara. "Why?" Amara's breathing came hard. "Because I refused to become you." That answer broke something in Soyeon's face. Amara had every reason to abandon her. Instead, she had given up the safest path toward the exit to save a woman who had spent months trying to destroy her. Mercy did not erase what Soyeon had done. It only proved who Amara refused to become. Taejun. Seong-ho smiled when he saw him. "You came yourself." Taejun's eyes flicked toward the column hiding Amara. "Of course. Still choosing her over everything." "No." Seong-ho looked confused. Taejun's voice stayed calm. "I'm choosing truth over you." Sirens grew louder outside. Seong-ho's expression finally cracked. Taejun had already released the accounts, already contacted authorities, already destroyed the leverage. There was nothing left to bargain with. The empire Seong-ho wanted had become worthless in his hands before he could take it. "Put it down." Daehyun's voice came from Seong-ho's left. Police entered behind him. For 1 second, Seong-ho looked everywhere. No exit, no loyal men, no accounts, no allies. His own scheme had eaten every piece of security he believed he possessed. The gun lowered. Officers moved in. Soyeon stepped from behind the column shaking. They arrested her too. She didn't resist. When they passed Amara, Soyeon looked at her once. No apology could fit inside that moment, but shame finally could. And for now, that was enough. Soyeon's downfall happened exactly where her power had always lived. In public. Her board removed her before noon. Sponsors suspended contracts. Messages she had preserved as proof of influence became evidence of conspiracy. The social circle she weaponized against Amara disappeared overnight. Seong-ho faced far more serious charges. Mercy had saved Soyeon's life. It had not saved her status. Amara never asked it to. Grace without accountability would have been another lie. Soyeon would live. She would answer for what she had done. Both things could be true. Taejun lost 3 companies, 2 major investors, a logistics contract worth more money than Amara could comfortably imagine. He also lost several men who had only been loyal while loyalty paid. Daehyun watched the office empty. You regret it? No. That answer came immediately. Taejun looked toward the city. For years, he had confused having control with being safe. The empire had grown. His life had become smaller. Losing part of it hurt, but for the first time, what remained actually belonged to him. No hidden ledger, no borrowed loyalty, no lie sitting between him and the woman he loved. Taejun did something harder than pursuit. Nothing. He didn't appear at Amara's apartment, didn't call repeatedly, didn't send flowers, didn't make Daehyun invent emergencies. He gave her space. Then he wrote a letter. By hand. He apologized. No explanation disguised as defense. No request for forgiveness. He wrote that fear had made him selfish, that loving her did not give him the right to decide which truths she could handle. At the bottom, one sentence. You owe me nothing. Taejun folded the letter, and finally meant every word. Under the letter sat legal documents. Amara read them twice, then called the attorney whose number appeared on the final page. The campaign had been transferred, not to Taejun, to her. Controlling ownership, revenue rights, creative authority. Amara called him immediately. Have you lost your mind? Possibly. You gave me a company. No. His voice remained calm. I returned the value your work created. That sounds suspiciously like a gift. It isn't. Amara fell quiet. Taejun had finally learned the difference between giving her power and returning power that was already hers. Amara went to his office. Taejun stood when she entered, then stayed where he was. No assumption, no reaching. Amara placed the ownership documents on his desk. You could have asked. You might have said no. I probably would have. I know. She almost laughed. Then the emotion came back. I still don't trust you completely. His face tightened. I understand. I still love you. That hurt him differently. Amara stepped closer. I need both things to be true for a while. Taejun nodded. Then I'll live inside both until one changes. Amara crossed the final step. She put her arms around him. Taejun didn't move at first. Then he held her, carefully, as if the woman in his arms was not fragile, but trust itself was. Amara closed her eyes. I haven't forgiven everything. I know. You say that a lot now. I'm improving. She laughed against his chest. Taejun's eyes closed. That tiny sound almost destroyed him. Their reconciliation wasn't magic. The damage didn't vanish because love survived it. They simply chose to rebuild where the truth had finally made rebuilding possible. Amara changed the campaign immediately. More body types, more skin tones, clothes tailored to the people wearing them instead of demanding bodies conform to sample sizes. No pity, no transformation narrative, just beauty. The first meeting terrified her. Then she noticed everyone waiting for her decision. Her decision, not Taejun's. Amara straightened. Keep the stomach visible. The stylist nodded. Don't narrow her waist in post. Another note. And if anybody says flattering when they mean smaller, we're starting the meeting again. The room laughed. Amara smiled. Power fit her better than any gown ever had. The launch ballroom looked familiar. That was intentional. Same luxury, same kind of people, same polished floor. But Amara entered through the front doors this time. No tray, no apron, no permission required. Taejun stayed at the back. He could have stood beside her. He could have made the evening about the powerful man who discovered her. He didn't. The campaign belonged to Amara, so he let it. She saw him anyway. Of course she did. And something warm unfolded inside her chest. Months earlier, People in a ballroom had laughed at Amara's body. Tonight, enormous photographs of that same body covered the walls. Not hidden, not reduced, not corrected. Women approached her crying. One whispered, "I bought a dress because of you." Another said, "I stopped hiding from photographs." Amara nearly lost control of her own tears. This was bigger than revenge. The people who mocked her had wanted shame. Amara had turned that shame into visibility. Not because Taejun chose her, because after being chosen, she chose herself. That distinction changed everything. Taejun stayed away from the cameras. Amara walked straight toward him. Every eye followed. He murmured, "This is your moment." "I know." She took his hand. "I'm sharing it." Taejun's throat tightened. But the woman who had once suspected his attention was pity was now choosing him publicly. Not because she needed protection, not because she needed money, not because she needed a campaign. She had all three without him now. She chose him because she wanted him. For Taejun, that was more valuable than anything he had ever owned. Taejun proposed in Lake Como. No press, no musicians, no private fireworks. Amara noticed immediately. "You've become suspiciously normal. I'm trying something new." Then he knelt. Her hands flew to her mouth. Taejun looked more nervous than he had facing armed men. "Amara Cora, will you marry me?" She stared. 1 second. 2. 5. Taejun's face slowly collapsed. Amara started laughing. "Are you enjoying this?" "A little." "Amara." "Yes." His eyes closed. She laughed through tears. "Yes, Kang Taejun. I'll marry you." On her wedding morning, Amara stood before a mirror. Years earlier, mirrors had been places where she searched for what needed fixing. Today, she searched for nothing. The gown followed her body. Her stomach was visible beneath silk. Her hips filled the skirt. Her face was wet with happy tears. Zuri cried behind her, "Don't start! You started! I am the bride!" "I'm allowed." Amara laughed. Outside, drums blended with softer Korean strings. Two worlds meeting without either swallowing the other. And for once, Amara felt no need to become smaller to fit inside happiness. Taejun had faced guns without blinking. Taehyun leaned closer. "You've survived worse. Be quiet." Amara saw Taejun wipe one eye. Her smile broke wide. He looked embarrassed. She loved him for it. When she reached him, Taejun whispered, "You look..." Amara raised one eyebrow. "Malfunctioning again?" He laughed through the emotion. "Yes." Then he took her hands. The man who once believed control was strength stood before everyone he loved and allowed himself to be completely seen. Their wedding wasn't about merging empires, it was about choosing a life. Taejun promised never again to confuse protection with permission. Amara promised to tell him when he was being unbearable. Taehyun whispered that she had already perfected that vow. Zuri almost laughed aloud. Then Amara looked into Taejun's eyes. "I don't belong to you." His fingers tightened gently around hers. "I know. I choose you." Taejun's expression broke. "I choose you too." That was the promise that mattered, not possession. Choice. Repeated freely. Every day. During their first dance, Taejun stepped on Amara's dress. She stared at him. The feared Kang Taejun went pale. "Did you tear it?" "No." "Are you sure?" "Relax. I paid an unreasonable amount for this gown." Amara burst out laughing. "You really know how to romance a woman." "I am improving." Slowly. He pulled her closer. Around them, the reception filled with music, food, woven color, candlelight, and people who had survived enough darkness to understand what joy cost. Amara rested her head against him. This time, happiness did not frighten her. Soyeon's story did not end at the warehouse. She cooperated with prosecutors, returned money tied to the scheme, lost the company she had once believed defined her. Months later, Amara received a letter, not asking forgiveness, not demanding sympathy, Just 2 words. "Thank you." Amara folded it. She did not answer. Mercy did not require friendship. Some people were allowed to change far away from you. That was enough. Seong-ho's conviction followed later. For the first time in years, the danger around Taejun's empire finally began to shrink. Amara's company grew. Slowly at first. Then suddenly, women posted photographs wearing clothes they once believed weren't meant for them. Designers started requesting meetings. Retailers called. Amara hired people who understood what it meant to build fashion around bodies instead of ranking bodies against fashion. Taejun invested nothing. That was deliberate. When she needed advice, she asked. When she didn't, he stayed out. Sometimes love looked like extravagant flights to Paris. Sometimes it looked like a powerful man knowing when not to put his fingerprints on something that belonged entirely to his wife. One evening, Amara returned to the original ballroom for another event. She found the exact place. The marble looked ordinary. That surprised her. She had remembered it as a battlefield. Here was where the glass shattered, where people laughed, where one woman's cruelty tried to make her ashamed of occupying space. Amara looked down at herself. Same body, same belly, same thighs, same woman. Everything else had changed. She smiled. Not because the humiliation had been worth it. Pain did not become good simply because something beautiful grew afterward. She had simply survived it without becoming smaller. Taejun found her there. Thinking? Unfortunately, he stood beside her. Amara pointed toward the floor. That's where I decided you were insane. I remember. You crouched in a $3,000 suit and picked up broken glass. Closer to 5. She stared at him. That is not the point. I know. Amara slipped her hand into his. Do you know why I noticed you? Taejun looked at her. Because I helped. No. She smiled. Because you didn't look embarrassed to be seen helping me. That answer stayed with him. Years later, Amara sat in their living room, holding a softly swaddled newborn against her chest. She looked exhausted. Happy. Mostly exhausted. Taejun walked in carrying tea like it was a high-risk diplomatic operation. Amara looked at the cup. You remembered the honey? He froze, then looked genuinely terrified. She started laughing. I'm joking. Taejun closed his eyes. You are cruel. Marriage made me worse. No. You arrived like this. The baby shifted quietly between them, and the room settled into something neither had once believed could belong to them. Peace. Taejun sat beside her. The baby made a tiny sound. He looked alarmed. Amara smiled. She's fine. How do you know? Because I have ears. He stared at her. Amara laughed harder. Years earlier, Taejun had used those exact words in his penthouse kitchen. Now he shook his head. I regret teaching you sarcasm. You didn't teach me anything. That is obviously true. He leaned against her. Outside the windows, Seoul moved at full speed. Inside, Kang Taejun finally had the one thing power had never been able to purchase. A home he did not need to control. Amara once believed being loved by a man like Taejun would prove something. That maybe all the people who had mocked her were wrong because somebody powerful found her beautiful. Years taught her better. She had been worthy before Taejun, before the campaign, before Paris, before the gowns, before anybody crossed a ballroom to defend her. His love did not create her value. Good love simply became one of the places where she no longer had to argue for it. That was the difference. And once Amara understood it, nobody could take it away again. Taejun learned something too. Protection without honesty was control wearing better clothes. Money could create comfort. It could not create trust. Power could force doors open. It could not make someone walk through them willingly. The woman who changed his life was the one person he had never been able to command. That was exactly why loving her transformed him. He did not become weaker. He became less afraid of not being in charge. And for Kang Taejun, that was the most radical surrender of all. The woman they called too fat was never transformed into someone worthy of love. She was loved without being reduced first. She built something of her own. She survived betrayal without becoming cruel. And she chose a man who eventually learned that loving her meant respecting the freedom to choose him back. If this story left one emotion inside you, put that single emotion in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to feel seen exactly as they are. And subscribe to Soulmate Mafia Love Stories for the next complete love story. Because sometimes the happiest ending is not being chosen. It is finally realizing you were never unworthy in the first place.